I made a new game. It's out right now, it's free, and it's done. So yeah, it's been an interesting year and a half, and I want to dive right into this. Let's start around 2 years ago. I was playing Minecraft with my friends, you know, like any other day really, and I was sitting in the crafting table making an iron sword. In my inventory, I remember having a single diamond, and I wanted to use that for the sword, but I didn't have enough. If only there was a way for me to mix and match which materials I used. And that's when I had a bit of a light bulb moment. What if I were to make my own game, one where you'd be able to do just that, combining materials in different combinations to your heart's content, crafting multiple different types of weapons with said combinations, and then using said weapons to beat the ever-loving hell out of some baddies, and not the good kind of baddies. That idea, it just held some kind of pull, at least in my mind, so I threw it into my list of game ideas. Shortly after I had the idea, I attempted to make the game with kind of a multiplayer focus of sorts, collaborating with a friend of mine, BPM 2007, although the project ended up falling through after about a week. Due to this, I was kinda dissuaded from the concept, but not totally disillusioned, so I put the idea back into my shelf and moved on. Time passed, I made some new games such as Umbra and Delusion, but after the completion of those two, I was left with no real current project to work on, and so I consulted my ideas shelf for new challenges. Of everything listed, one idea stood out to me, one which held immense promise, and it was that same crafting idea that I had formed a few months prior. Deciding to take up the mantle once more, I booted up a livestream on March 22nd, 2024, beginning the project live for all to see. Granted, I was kinda goofing off during that stream, as I was in a call with my friends at the time, which kinda led to a lot of comedy, but nonetheless, it had begun. I would stream, I would create a few videos, and I would post on my Discord server. You know, all was smooth sailing. But as development progressed, and the game moved from the conceptual to the digital, I ran into quite an interesting conundrum. But to understand it, I need to explain where I had wanted the game to go originally. So, my initial vision for the game was as follows. It's a little game named Hypersmith where you utilize a crafting system, one which allows you to make any kind of weapon with any kind of material, and then use those weapons to explore randomly generated dungeons, killing enemies inside them, and collecting loot. For the most part, those aspects remained strong from beginning to conclusion, but one thing was drastically different, that being the exploration. I had originally wanted the game to focus more on the exploration and looting side of things, as opposed to the combat. However, when actually testing the game, I had found that fighting enemies was much more engaging and fun. This was evident in that whenever I ran into a dead end in the generation, even despite the fact that I was given a new item as a reward, I always felt kinda down that I had to backtrack through empty rooms that I had already cleared just to get back to the fun part of the game, the combat. So, I looked at this, made a realization, and after some deliberation, pivoted the game. Instead of focusing the moment-to-moment gameplay around exploring dungeons, I would instead center it toward the on-the-fly combat decision-making kind of thing. I wouldn't remove the dungeon generation, but I would make it less important. The first big change I made was clipping the side paths down from these long chains of rooms down into just one-room-long excursions. In practice, this meant that most of the game followed one randomly generated pathway, where sometimes it would branch into a side room that had some loot or maybe some side quest or something like that, but would quickly resume back into the main direction. Even if not as explorable as the original version, I found this new generation style to be much more fun, as it sort of gained the best of both worlds. On one hand, you got the excitement of exploring areas and discovering loot, while on the other hand, you always were close to combat and ready to re-engage in the high-action gameplay. So, in a matter of speaking, with this change you were always on the highs, but that isn't a sustainable mind state to keep players in, so to balance things out, I added sort of a break period to rest between every floor, letting you catch your breath. You know, nothing big, but something to temporarily let off the gas pedal while you psych yourself up for the next big rush. And combined, that kinda solved the main conundrum that I was having for the development of the game. So moving forward, and following along with kind of a corruption mechanic which chases you from behind, the game had developed into this cyclic rhythm of high-action fighting followed by low-action shopping, before quickly resuming the high-action fighting once more. At least for me, I found this to be extremely fun, and I am not ashamed to say that I spent many hours of development time just playing the game instead of working on it. Look guys, I was playtesting it and looking for bugs. I swear I wasn't just addicted to it. Anyway, so taking that as a good sign, I would continue to lock in and keep development going strong. But if you've seen my YouTube channel, as of recent at least, you will know that something has been going on. You see, As I hinted at in the beginning of this video, it's been around 10 months since my last real upload, and that's for one simple reason. I just haven't been able to make a video script that I've been happy with. I mean, don't believe me? Look at this. Like this one over there, that one's like a run-through of the stuff that I've been making right after the second video. And this one's like the last one, but later in development. Oh, and this one's unfinished. We don't talk about that one. And that one over there, ooh, that one's actually pretty similar to the current video, wouldn't you say? Anyway, I've got a lot of these lying around in various locations because I have kept trying to make a video to talk about what I've been doing, but I've just never really felt satisfied with them. I kind of kept telling myself that I can do better, and then I never actually release them. It's kind of a problem actually, but I hope this video is a step in the right direction. Oh, but funny thing actually, and yes, this is kind of a tangent, but it's also kind of relevant. So, I actually had this whole other hour-long video that I fully completed and edited, but because of copyright problems, I was unable to upload it to YouTube. So yeah, that was cool. Anyway, back to Hypersmith. This should explain the lack of update videos, as I have been, unhappy with their scripts, and I had made this whole other massive video, but that doesn't really explain where the streaming went. About a year after I started development, also known as 4 months ago, I made my last stream, and they had been waning in frequency for some time leading up to that point as well. So what happened there? Well, basically, I reached the point in development where everything I was adding fit into the general description of just pure content creation. At least in the early days, back when I was streaming a lot, every stream was all about these kind of like very unique systems, things that really were very integral for the game. You know, like the enemy system, or the crafting system, or the wave system. These were not only fun to watch, but they were fun to stream, as each of them held its own little challenge for me to overcome, and in my opinion, I think they were pretty cool. But as I reached the end of development for the game, all of the main systems had been made, and all that was left for me to do was to fill in said systems with content. In other words, actual things the players could utilize. To me, that just wasn't that fun to stream, and I imagine it wouldn't have been that fun to watch either, so I just petered out of making them. Instead, I just focused on grinding away at content for the game, and now there are over 100 items, including in that count being the 10 unique weapons that all materials can be crafted into, a scattering of enemies, and a good amount of drugs. I'm not kidding about the drugs. But here's the thing. As more things began to fill out, I just started losing interest. Not that I found the game unfun, as I already said, I could spend hours playing it, but I just stopped getting excited about working on it. Plain and simple, I had just run myself out of all that I could, and as such, the very last things the game needed, like some polishing in the UI, or some sound effects for the later stages of the game, or things like that, they just felt monumentally difficult. Even though they weren't, they just kind of had that mental impression on me. And each day just kind of eroded at me, so after a few months, I just threw in the towel and released the game, which brings us to now. The game is done. It's freely downloadable from a link in the description, and I hope you have fun with it. While I do kind of regret where it had to end, just before the finishing touches, I do think the game itself is really fun, so I'd love if you could check it out. It is free after all. I will quickly add this though, because if you decide to play it, since I forgot to make a notification in the game and I can't be bothered to retroactively fix it, I gotta tell you about something. In order to start a run, you need to actually have both weapon slots, filled, which is something I forgot to properly communicate in the game. I swear, I'm not lying, this was on my list of features to add to the game. I just never got around to it. Oops. Anyway, back to the video. I want to say that Hypersmith was, actually quite the fun journey, at least in my eyes, and I learned a lot from it, which is very valuable. If you feel like checking out what I spent over a year developing, or just want to see my brand of humor in a game, I'd recommend giving it a try. Anyway, that's enough advertising from me, as we need to move on to my next big topic for this video. Because yeah, this is actually a dual-purpose video, as I'm announcing my next game alongside the conclusion of the previous. So, I am currently on summer break, with college on the horizon, and with no game to work on, so where does that leave me? Well, it leaves me with time to make a new game, because what else would I do with my time? It's me we're talking about here. That's like the definition of a video game development junkie. I will be making a game, if it's the last thing I do. Up, cool your jets, Skippy. Just wanted to make a quick amendment to the Constitution here, as I actually move into college in around 3 days. Yeah, this video took a while to make. Anyway, this next idea of mine a currently unnamed project would be a tower defense game with the focus being on how you could apply modifier gems to towers, and these gems would grant unique behaviors and effects. I don't want them to just be simple stat changes. I'm talking stuff like shooting lightning, summoning mini helper turrets, calling in poison clouds, etc. So combine that already unique idea with the requirement to select loadouts of a limited size, and some other plans I will choose to not reveal as of yet, and I think this game is going to have quite the vast amount of replayability. Some aspects of the game are currently undecided, such as just how far I want to actually take this, but for now, stay tuned. Which I say because I don't know if I'm going to be finishing this. As I said, I'm going into college, like, right now. Also, just as a fun little note, I think I'm going to be making this project with a collaborator, which will be my first big project made this way, and I'll be doing it with a friend of mine, Source. So go check out that guy's channel on YouTube, he has some great videos.
Hello everybody, today I'll be showing you two setups for Ace Ascent on the defending side. They are very simple and will improve your gameplay quite a lot.
Back to the project itself. I honestly can't really tell you too much about the game's future right now, but you know, maybe I can give you guys a little sneak peek at where the current development is standing. So looking here, yeah, it's pretty rough, and we are basically dealing with development shapes to outline things. Not much of a point in the visuals as they stand, but I can show you some cool stuff. So looking here, I can drag, let's say, this one into the scene, and when I go back and spawn in some enemies, you can see it as a nice little attacking animation. I think it's pretty good if I do say so myself. I mean, I was the one who made it. So does that count as narcissism? Anyway, there's actually one more thing I want to show off here, so let me change up the scenery. Don't mind all these little tower shapes that we have going on here, these are some testing things. Don't worry about it. You see, I have their spacing very far apart, and that is for one very deliberate reason. You see, all I have to do is right-click and... it speaks for itself, really, but yeah, this tower defense game is going to have a grappling hook. So as I said, stay tuned. Anyway, that's all I really had to say right now. A game has been released, a new game is beginning, and quite an interesting future lies ahead. I'll be seeing you guys later, be it in the past, present, or future.